So before we continue to build out our data model or get our data in the shape that we need it to produce our final visualizations, let's play around a little bit with producing visuals. And as you see, simply by bringing in these two, I'm able to visualize this data in somewhat of a table. Now, if I navigate to the Show Me tab, you can see now we have access to all of these different visuals. And Tableau has a visual philosophy, so that's why you don't see an excessive amount of visuals. It's based on giving you the best visual to communicate to your viewer what is being shown. So you can see it has some of this visuals grayed out. So if we wanted to do a tree map for our visual here, we could just click and you can see it turns into a tree map. We could also do a bar chart, and all of these things we can play around with to show us what is going on. And you can see what happens is in our columns and rows, which is an indication of our table, you can bring in different visuals, but you can see for our text, it's the sum. Now we can change that sum to a different aggregation by pressing the down caret and going over and hitting the visualization, the average we want, and then playing around with our visual. I'm going to keep it at the table for the moment because there are other visuals that we can create later on. But just to give you an idea of the Show Me visual, and this would be in our sheet 1. So also to bring to your attention, on the columns in the rows here, so you can see if I took this from text and brought it up to row, it will turn into a line chart. So what we can do once we have that is there's a plus sign here, and this means that there is a hierarchy. So we have year, and if I click the hierarchy, we have gone into quarters, and then that's what we have. Now we can also remove these also, and you can see when I remove them, we can stack them on top of each other. So if I remove quarter here, you can see what happens, or if I remove the date, the day, we're just stuck with the day. And because we have hours also, we can also move that. So that is our visualization pane. I'm just going to go and get the date time again, and I'll turn this into just a line chart, and we'll play around with this a little later. Okay, now what I want to do is be able to add another data source into this to enrich our data. So I'm going to go to the data source tab here, and you can see we're on the bike share data set. In this data set, we do have a column that says holiday. And that is a Boolean or 0 and 1 column, and it kind of gives us an indication whether it was a holiday there. I want to be able to add in the US holidays to see if my data was affected by any of the changes. So the way we can do that is now that we're highlighting this data set, which is our bike share data set, you can see there's a new tab there. So I'm going to add that tab there, and I'm going to say add a connection. Now, you can see the options that we can add to that, and I'm going to do a text file, and that text file represents what is called a comma separated value file, or a CSV, and that is essentially a text file where our values are kind of separated by commas for our columns and rows. So what we can do is click into that text file, and I'm going to bring in the US holiday dates, and you can see that spans from 2004 to 2021, which our data set is 2011 and 2012. So we are going to bring that in. And now you can see there's two connections there for our data set. We have our bike share data and our US holiday data. If I pull this over, you can see it makes an automatic connection. That's not exactly what we want to do, but you can connect these two in this method, which is pretty good because it will establish a relationship between those two files. Let me just click this off by just pulling it off, and we can review that holiday data set by clicking into the view data, and you can see that we have a date column and we have our holiday and day of week and month and the year here. So there's a bit of information, and you can see we have the data types on each one of those, and we have 342 rows. So what I'm going to do is, instead of bringing this in and letting it automatically connect, I'm gonna click open. So once you click open, you bring this in, and now you can see you have options to how you want things joined. We have an inner join, a left join, a right join, and a full outer join. So we need to specify which columns are going to be connected. Now we know we have a date time column for our data source, and for the holiday we have a date column. So now you can see there's an issue there because the date time column is going to have multiple, let's see if I can show you with the data preview. We'll just use this one. So with the data preview, you can see these are broken up into hours. So it's going to be multiple ones here for a single date, 24 or 23 to be exact. So what we need to do is create a date column so we can join these things properly. So we can do that by just clicking into that and going down to create a join calculation. So a calculation is going to allow us to use a function to change one of the column values. So we can use date function on that date time expression there, and it will make a date column. And in this section here, it will tell you if it's applicable. So I'm going to apply that, and now I have a date column. I'm going to hit OK. And now if I look at my bike share data, you can see we have a date column. Now if I want to join those two, you can see there's no longer an error, and we're ready to go. And we don't want to use a inner join because that's going to restrict the table. I want to bring back all of the rows from my left table and match them to all of the rows in our right table. So I only want to bring back the holidays, and anything else that is not there will make it null. So I'm going to use a left join. And you can see, if we go back down to our data preview, we have our holiday there in the date and the specific period that we're looking at. So now we have done a join, and you have gotten a chance to see a quick calculation.